2, 1. It's a start to another lovely week. I've got Sean Clark and Evan joining me as always. This is the Rich Report, bringing you the richest content across entertainment. Gentlemen, let's do it. It was a crazy weekend in sports, and we're going to start in the NBA. But first off, gentlemen, how are y'all doing? Another week. Milwaukee Bucks now take the series lead. Clippers on the brink of being eliminated, unfortunately. But how are we doing?
Doing fantastic. My favorite team in Euro, Belgium, has advanced to the quarterfinals, eliminating Portugal. That alone made this a great weekend, but also got some really good NASCAR this weekend. NASCAR outperformed F1 this weekend. Very interesting. We get very excited to talk about it.
You know, the Padres coming off a 9-1 homestand, hot right now, and the Bucks, like you said, 2-1. I'm feeling pretty good.
And I guess I have to send an apology to Khris Middleton, because what we all thought, a man who isn't really all that clutch when it comes to these types of games, absolutely took over in Game 3 in Atlanta. Just an absolutely insane fourth quarter as he was able to put up well over 30 points. Just a magnificent close of that game, just taking over after Trae Young went down with the injury, and Milwaukee was able to cruise from there and go to the win. So, Evan, Khris Middleton, not really the guy you would think as one to take over a la Devin Booker or Kobe Bryant-esque type of performance at the end, but what does that mean for Milwaukee for the rest of the series and potentially going into the NBA Finals? Khris Middleton goes from a guy that we all thought was, a second or third player, but now seems to have all the confidence in the world and is taking over games late.
It's huge right now. I mean, like I've said throughout this season and throughout the playoffs, Khris Middleton really is being paid to be our number 2 guy, and he's finally stepped up as that and is able to get the shots. And he came up with 20 points in the fourth quarter last night to win the game against the Hawks when the Bucks struggled early. It was really impressive how the Bucks the early deficit yesterday was huge, but they didn't really let it get to them. They still executed their game plan. They still ran things the way they wanted, and they were able to clamp up on defense a little bit. And then Middleton being able to come up clutch as we need a shooter in later games, which we haven't really had on the roster. It's huge for us, and Middleton has earned his spot and earned his pay this postseason.
Back in 2016, I actually saw a Bucks Nuggets game back when the Nuggets were still rebuilding, and the Bucks were a young team who had just recently broke through for their first playoff. And at the end of the game, Khris Middleton attempted a game-winning mid-range jump shot down 1 to win the game, and it just barely rimmed out the buzzer, and the Nuggets won. And after that, I saw Khris Middleton constantly come up short in the clutch. Not to mention skewer away in big moments. So not only did I see in person Khris Middleton failing in the clutch back when he was 3 or 4 years into the league, but then in the playoffs on the bigger stages than just a random November NBA game against Denver, he was coming up short as well. And I thought, okay, Khris Middleton is not the Robin you need to win the NBA title. LeBron had Dwayne Wade, Kevin Durant and Steph Curry, or you can argue the other way around. Steph Curry had Klay Thompson in 2015, stuff like that. In the NBA, you need that second guy. Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. Kobe had Shaq, and then Kobe had Pau Gasol. You have to have a really strong number 2 player to win a championship in the NBA. But unfortunately for the Bucks the last few years, Khris Middleton hadn't been that. He is now 3 back-to-back triples and scoring a bunch of huge points in Game 3 against Atlanta. Atlanta was leading for the majority of the game. I thought Atlanta was going to win this game because it looked like Atlanta had all the momentum. They jumped out to an early lead, but Khris Middleton simply took over, and the Bucks won by 11 points, which shocked me to say the least. Khris Middleton, like I said, against the Brooklyn Nets, the second and third options on the Milwaukee Bucks finally stepped up, and because of that, they were the favorites to win the NBA title. Well, that statement's looking really good right now because in game 3, Khris Middleton was that legit second scorer that you need to win a championship. If the Bucks end up winning the NBA championship, which they are currently kind of heading in that direction, we'll look back at this game 3 as kind of a huge stepping stone. That because game 3 was a continuation of the fact that Giannis does not have to do everything, and like they did against the Brooklyn Nets, the role players from Milwaukee are finally stepping up.
Now, Evan, I've seen across social media will say, well, if Milwaukee were to get to the finals and win the championship, it's now tainted because they got the lucky route to the NBA finals. Brooklyn with the injury to Kyrie and James Harden, and now Trae Young may be sort of neutralized for the remainder of the series. So what would you say to those that are kind of frustrated with Milwaukee's path to what could be an Eastern Conference title?
I mean, it's not our fault these players are getting injured, and this isn't a COVID bubble title down in Orlando, Florida. So, I mean, I feel like it holds a little bit more credibility than past or the most recent championship. Either way, with all the injuries, regardless if we get to the finals, we're going to have to face the Suns or the Clippers, who, I mean, the Clippers aren't fully loaded right now, but I'm going to say the Suns, who are hot. And so we're going to have to earn it against them. So I don't think it would be fair to say this is a asterisk title because of the injuries in the Eastern Conference. The Bucks had an easy route to get to the finals, but they still have to overcome the hottest team in the NBA.
4 minutes and 44 seconds. Yes, this was the span of time that points were not scored in game 4 between the Phoenix Suns and Los Angeles Clippers in the fourth quarter. Paul George hit a free throw at 10:07 of the fourth quarter, and no points were scored until 6:23 when DeAndre Ayton put the Suns up by 3. Now, the Clippers had a chance to take the lead. They had a whole bunch of chances. The Suns were off their game on Saturday, but somehow, some way, the Clippers still missed. The Clippers were garbage from beyond the arc. It was, I mean, I'd say that stormtroopers are more accurate in the Star Wars films than the Clippers were from beyond the arc in game 4. It was that bad. And we had pretty much a classic mid 2000s Detroit Pistons game that you would see. You know, Pistons Lakers finals, those games were all 80-80, 70-70, but you know, we're in 2021. We're having games result in 84-80 final scores. I mean, this series has been a grind. Both these teams can play great defense, but when the Clippers had the opportunity after coming back, because they were trailing by double digits early on, they had the opportunity to come back, but they could not close the show. Sean, with the series heading back to Phoenix tonight, is this series over? Is there anything the Clippers can do to force a game 6 back in LA?
Sorry, Cameron, but you're done. You're going to have to lose in 5 games in the conference finals, just like my Denver Nuggets did a season ago. Listen, what did I say coming into this series? The Clippers supporting characters need to step up. Let me just quickly go through the list here of game 4's supporting characters of the Clippers, and let me just see how many points they put up, okay? Let me just pull this up here real quick. Marcus Morris, 4 points, 2 of 8 shooting. Patrick Beverley, 1 of 4 shooting, 2 points. Nick Batum, 1 of 6 shooting, 3 points. Luke Kennard, 1 of 4 shooting, 2 points. That's not good enough. How are you supposed to be a team?
Not to mention Paul George was 1 of 9 from beyond the arc as well.
Yeah, that's pretty bad too. But everyone, their mother in the NBA media has been ripping on Paul George. So I'm just going to talk about everyone else that didn't step up. But yeah, no, 1 of 9 is also pretty bad. So you're telling me that the Clippers are supposed to beat a team with Chris Paul returning with 1 of 4, 2 points combined. I am not a math major, but with all of those players I just mentioned, that is a combined 11 points among 4 players. Really? You're going to try to beat a Phoenix Suns team when that happens. That is terrible. Chris Paul is back. He has all the confidence. You have Devin Booker. And yes, no Cameron Payne, but guess what? Chris Paul is back. He's the undisputed leader. And with game 5 being in Phoenix, Suns fans are going to be hyped. This is the biggest game for Arizona sports since Super Bowl 43. Okay, it has been a rough decade and a half or so for Arizona sports. The Diamondbacks have underachieved, and we all know how bad they are right now, 5-40. Coyotes, well, yeah, they're in the 2012 Western Conference Finals, but that wasn't even close. The LA Kings took care of them. Cardinals, yes, they've had some NFC championship games, but this is the best chance that Arizona sports has had to a championship since Super Bowl 43 when the Arizona Cardinals were literally this close. The Suns are going to come out strong. They're going to eliminate the Clippers. If Kawhi was playing, I think the Clippers would have a chance, but sadly they don't. Suns are going to punch their ticket to NBA.
Kawhi was playing, the Clippers would be up 3-1 right now, just saying. So
I think it would be 2-2. I think the Clippers would have won game 2 with Kawhi Leonard. But I don't think they would have won games 4 and 1.
Kawhi, the ultimate closer, wouldn't have scored a point in those 4 minutes where there was no scoring.
Ultimate closer, interesting considering he blew a 3-1 deficit last year. But yes, the Suns are going to go to the NBA Finals. It's been a heck of a year for the Clippers. Honestly, you as a Clippers fan, Cameron, should be holding your head high. You got to the conference finals for the first time.
No. Look,
here we go with the
regardless of the Kawhi injury, Clippers, they had to win a title in this 2 years. The plan wasn't, they needed to reach the conference finals. That wasn't the goal. When you bring in Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, who had won 2 previous titles and a title before in Toronto, when that team wasn't really doing much. They were on that same Clipper route of, they really can't overcome the hump. They had a 2-year plan. Now, if they bow out tonight, now you got to talk to Kawhi and convince him to stay for another year, maybe sign an extension. If he doesn't, that's it. It's a complete failure. Reggie Jackson's a free agent. You have guys key players that you need for next year, and the Clippers might not have in Kawhi and Reggie Jackson. They're going to be stuck with Paul George for the next 3-4 years instead. And I don't think that's a route you want to take. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the Clippers do if they lose out tonight. Maybe you convince Kawhi that, hey, we got to the conference finals and we won 2 straight against Utah to close out even when you got hurt. So maybe that's their selling point. But that's not something I can really build off, especially with how quiet Kawhi was when he first signed with the Clippers and how mysterious that was. And, he was going to the Lakers. He was staying in Toronto. No, he's coming to the Clippers. That was a crazy summer in 2019. But, Evan, what are your thoughts on the series, and do the Suns get the job done tonight?
I have to agree with Sean here. I think it's over for the Clippers. I think the Valley's going to be rocking tonight. Sean really nailed home the emphasis on how big of a game this is for the Valley and how badly the Suns need to bring this game home for them. So it's going to be the Suns game to lose. But if the Clippers can get anything going, I could see this game going back to LA for game 6.
Yeah, I think the crazy part about the series is that the Clippers have outscored the Suns in the series because they blew them out in game 3 and games 1, 2, 4, all extremely tight. So could we say that maybe whoever gets this game wins the series? I mean, of course, if the Suns win, they win the series. But what if the Clippers are to walk out of Phoenix with a victory? Does that mean, because Phoenix was a little bit rattled in game 4. Their confidence was a little shaky. They were really on the edge. So now you have a closeout series at home. Phoenix has never been in this situation since the 90s. And Chris Paul's never been in this situation. And of course, we know their young core has never been in this situation. So if they do lose this game, could that mean the Clippers, with their, profound playoff experiences, does that favor them? Because they have to play at home. And if they win that, now it's game 7 back in Phoenix.
I think that with Chris Paul's veteran leadership and Devin Booker's closer mentality, like you said, Kawhi has, I think that the Suns are still going to get done. I don't see them losing 3 games in a row. I also think that the supporting cast Suns are too good. DeAndre Ayton is very dependable. He is a mismatch in this series. Even though the Suns did struggle yesterday, the Suns they still got the job done. The Suns have found a way to win this postseason. They have won in all different kinds of fashions. And I just think they have too much depth for the Clippers to maintain without Kawhi Leonard. Here's the thing. The reason why the Clippers beat the Jazz is because the Jazz were too one-dimensional. They relied way too much on three-point shooting. They lived and they died by it. The Phoenix Suns are not that kind of team. They will beat you with mid-range jumpers. They will beat you with DeAndre Ayton inside, and Devin Booker will finish you off from 3. The Suns are a very versatile unit. The Utah Jazz were not like that. The Suns were way too dependent on 3. And when the Clippers got astronomically hot, the Jazz just simply couldn't keep up. And there wasn't different ways the Jazz could have won. So that's why I think the Suns are going to close out the Clippers, because they are built to hold leads better than a team like the Utah Jazz would.
What is next for Ben Simmons? Because he's got the max deal for the Philadelphia 76ers. Their future is really up in the air because the process, let's just say, is dead for now. I mean, that whole era is pretty much through the roof. Doc Rivers isn't the guy that's going to win a title. It's just not going to happen unless you put 3 future Hall of Famers all on one team like the Boston Celtics. It's not feasible with Doc Rivers. We've seen this story with the Clippers, and now it's happening with the Philadelphia 76ers. So what do you do with Ben Simmons? Is there any value for him if you decide to want to acquire him, or is Philly going to be stuck with this guy for the rest of his career? I mean, Ben Simmons has some soul searching to do, to be honest, but also he needs someone in Philly or any franchise that will believe in him, because if they believe in him, he can improve his game if he has the proper coaching. But for now, he just has zero confidence, and I don't believe Philadelphia believes in him. So it could lead to some pretty terrible things if he were to stay in Philly next year. So what do you do with Ben Simmons next year, you guys? Or in the offseason, I should say.
This may be a bit of a hot take here, but I don't think you do anything really. I think that Philly should try to acquire a player kind of like Jimmy Butler's caliber 2 years ago, and just try to win another one. You're stuck with him being in Simmons for years. Okay, this is what you worked for. You have this core, and yes, they choked against Atlanta pretty epically. Yes, I understand that, but here's the thing: you are one game 5. You just hold the lead against Atlanta, and you're in the Eastern Conference Finals. Philly just needs to add another piece. They don't need it. They don't need to blow things up. They don't need to overreact. It was crazy that they lost this season in the first place. If Philly can add another winger like Jimmy Butler they had 2 years ago, something like that, then they can maybe get over the hump. But getting rid of Ben Simmons ain't going to do anything, because, like it or not, Ben Simmons is still a really good player. He is a very good defender. He's a good passer. He's a good playmaker. He can score inside. He's very similar to Giannis. Giannis can just shoot a bit better and has a little bit better footwork. Okay, that's what Ben Simmons is. Don't need to overreact. Just keep him for another year. Push for a title the next year. You literally finish with the best record in the Eastern Conference. There is no reason to change anything outside of adding another piece that can get you over the hump. Okay, let's just cool our jets here, and let's see what Philly does next year.
I think it's tough for Ben Simmons right now because his contract is so expensive that no one's going to be willing to trade for Ben Simmons and acquire that amount of cash. Like, it's detrimental to any team's salary, and he's not the type of player that can change your team. But I don't know. Philadelphia fans are tough. And after his performance in the series, I don't know how he can return to the city and go back out in front of fans and perform in the right mindset, knowing that they will be, ragging on him all game, and they will be, taunting him and whatnot. So it's going to be tough, and he's going to have to prove himself very early on next season that he can still play and that he can be a scorer for the 76ers, because his contract is just too expensive to trade, and you can't cut him because then you just inherit all of that debt from that contract. So, I mean, it's just a messy situation right now. And I think Sean's right. I think the only viable option would be to keep him in Philadelphia.
There could be another superstar on his way out of his original team because the Portland Trailblazers are going through some pretty severe turmoil right now after they received a lot of backlash after hiring Chauncey Billups as their next head coach. Now, Chauncey Billups has some allegations from his past that are quite horrific when you go into more detail. And so people are finding it out and they're calling it out, and they don't believe Chauncey Billups should be in that position. Damian Lillard, it's been contemplated back and forth whether he was a part of bringing him in or whether he didn't have any influence. Portland saying he didn't, but I mean, it's Damian Lillard. He's the leader of this franchise. So I would think, you would think a smart front office would say, yeah, our star player should be somewhat involved in our coaching search. But Billups is in, but Lillard still seems to be unhappy to some extent. We don't know if he wants to stay. And he's also been an advocate for no super teams. So it's going to be, contradictory and kind of ironic if he's traded to a big market super team like a Los Angeles Lakers, who are going to be in desperate need for a point guard this offseason. So do you guys think there's any chance Damian Lillard, I mean, he's got a giant contract, so it's going to be hard to take that on, but is there really any chance you see Damian Lillard anywhere else outside of Portland? It's kind of like if Kobe Bryant ever left the Lakers, you just don't see Damian Lillard, a guy that's been the heart and soul of Rip City for so long now, leaving. So is there any chance that we see Damian Lillard in New Jersey for the fall of 2021?
No, I don't think so. Damian Lillard has a massive contract. He is the heart and soul of Portland. When you don't trade him, if you get traded, you're basically signing in your resignation as the Portland Trailblazer GM. Damian Lillard is the heart and soul of the franchise. You don't trade him. And I don't think Damian Lillard would eventually want to leave. I get he's unhappy, but I feel like he's going to try to make things better. Damian Lillard is not the kind of guy to just quit on his team. The Portland Trailblazers have been through some rough times. And yes, they had, another playoff exit this year, losing to the Denver Nuggets. But at the same time, I think that Damian Lillard is going to push from some serious change. You can't go far with CJ McCollum, and that's it. Damian Lillard is going to push for other stars to come, and I think that Damian Lillard is just going to try to ride it out. But I think that Damian Lillard wants to be known as someone who is loyal to the city and build a culture rather than to chase a ring, because I just don't see Damian Lillard being that guy. He's just so he's as anti-super team as I've ever seen a single NBA player, and I just don't see that mold breaking. If that mold truly is broken, then all hope is dead for parity in the NBA.
I mean, the thing is with Lillard, the trade market for him would be absolutely insane. There'd be tons of teams that would want to get a star like Lillard in their building. And he's just a game-changing player that's able to dish the basketball, distribute it, score it, whatever he needs to get done on the court, he gets it done. So, I mean, I could see New York or, like you guys said, the Lakers both wanting to get him in their building, but at the same time, he's anti-super team, and I feel like he does have a little bit of loyalty towards Portland. He's been in that market his entire career. In what trade would the Portland Trail Blazers accept to get rid of Damian Lillard? So I think this is just another situation where it's mostly just talk, and he'll probably end up back in Portland next season, but if he does get dealt, it will be an absolute blockbuster deal.
Shifting gears to Major League Baseball. Yes, Sean, the Seattle Mariners were the first team to have someone ejected under the MLB's ridiculous crackdown on pitchers, as Hector Santiago was tossed for what umpires believe was a sticky substance on his glove. There was no saying what substance it was, because obviously the MLB hasn't trained umpires to know, hey, this is what this feels and looks like. Hey, this is what rosin is. No, they just said, okay, the glove is sticky. There's something on it. So guess what? He's gone without any type of proof of what it was. Nothing. Just completely just gone from the game. Santiago is saying it was just rosin. And to make matters worse, did y'all see them take the glove off the field? Then it was handed to just some guy with his bare hands, no gloves, nothing, and put it in what was essentially just a loose trash bag. That was it. That was MLB's plan to go investigate it. The guy with his bare hands grabs the glove, puts it in this garbage bag, and I guess it's gone now. And if it comes back for rosin, what does that do? Because now pitchers are going to be like, well, I can just be tossed for having anything out there now. And it's just going to take days for MLB to decide, hey, this is what was on the glove. I feel like there needs to be transparency on the field there. There has to be an explanation at the moment that he's tossed, because you just say, well, we feel something. All right, he's gone. And if it comes back and it's just, oh, it was just rosin, we've got a serious problem on our hands, because now it just seems like any pitcher can be tossed out at any moment. So, Sean, you're the Seattle Mariner guy. Was it fair for the umpires to toss out Hector Santiago based off of suspicion?
I don't think I have to say too much about this one. I literally am struggling to come up with words because I don't have much. Why? It's stupid. Pitchers should not be tossed out unless there is clear evidence that they are breaking a rule. Do I have to say any more than that? No, I don't.
The rules around like rosin for pitchers, they're allowed to use it on their hands and whatnot, and to better grip the baseball. They're not allowed to apply it to their glove. But it was a humid day out. He had it on his hands. Like, it was Chicago in the middle of the summer. It's a little rough, you know? So I think I looked it up. I think the manager said like the humidity was in like 85%, 90%. It was like in the 50s or 60s, but it was still like 84 degrees out, you know, in South Chicago there with the White Sox. And so I could totally see how in that situation, a pitcher who uses rosin to better grip baseballs potentially get sweating into his glove, you know, that's going to happen. And if you don't have conclusive evidence that it's not rosin, there's no reason a player should be removed from the game. MLB umpires, you said it, Cameron, they're not trained to look for this stuff yet. They need to go through extensive training on this before they're actually enforcing the rules. And to take a glove, throw it in a trash bag, and then like scurry it away like hiding some evidence or something. I don't know. It's weird on the MLB. They don't have proper procedures put in place, and they need to, I feel like they need to stop this by the end of the month and just like, hey, next season we need to figure out a clear set of rules, and then we'll go off of it then. But like, they need to drop this now.
Yeah, you have to train umpires. Hey, this is what spider tag looks like. This is what any other substance that a pitcher has used in the past could end up looking like and feeling like, maybe even smelling like, but anything. You can't just go, hey, what is this? Why is your glove sticky? And then toss them out from there. It's not a good way of handling things. And MLB is, as we expected, doing the worst possible thing to crack down on pitchers. All right. We're going to play a little buy or sell with some MLB division leaders and whether or not they are legit World Series contenders. And we are going to start in the NL West. The San Francisco Giants, we're almost at the All-Star break, and they've got a 3.5 game lead in the NL West. They're the first team to hit 50 wins on the season. So, gentlemen, buy or sell the San Francisco Giants?
Buy. They have two legit aces so far this season, Kevin Gausman and Anthony. I cannot pronounce this guy's name. DeSclafani, I think. I'll roll with that. But yeah, they have two legit starters, and the San Francisco Giants are top 5 in both OPS and ERA. I'm sold.
I'm buying as well. The Giants are hot. We've seen them in the NL West just tear it up in the past without any like huge stars in their lineup, with guys that just happen to step up that season and become stars for the team without having the prior name recognition before. And I think the Giants are going to keep rolling, and I think they can continue to keep building this hot streak.
Could you imagine a 1-game playoff in the wild card between the Dodgers and Padres? Because that's where we're trending toward right now. Dodgers and Padres in the NL wild card game.
I would love that.
buy or sell. The Milwaukee Brewers lead the NL Central by 3 games over the Chicago Cubs. The Cardinals, who I picked to win the NL Central, are 4 games below 500. So, gentlemen, buy or sell the Milwaukee Brewers.
I'm selling. This one stat line sums it up. Corbin Burns has a under 250 ERA. His record is 3-4. The Milwaukee Bucks are 25th in team OPS. They don't give run support very, very well here. And I just
The Bucks, huh?
Brewers, sorry. We did talk a lot of NBA, but the Brewers are 25th in team OPS, and they don't provide the run support that the Brewers need in the postseason. I get that they can slug their way out of games, but I'm sorry. Your lineup is very shaky to me.
And by the way, we finally got our first chat, and it's from our good old friend, Johnny Crane. Congrats on the job in Devil's Lake, North Dakota, Johnny. We're going to miss you at the Rich Report, but we only know you've got great things inbound. But Sean, he's saying Milwaukee, he's saying bye, big time on the Brewers. So some contradictory opinions there. But Evan, what do you think?
I am buying the Brewers. The NL Central's fairly weak, and the Chicago Cubs are going to have to beat the Brewers in order to win the division, and I just don't see them doing that. So far, Milwaukee's 6-3 so far on the season series. Chicago is going to need to turn a lot of things around if they're going to want to win the division. So I feel like it's Milwaukee's division to lose, and there's not many other teams behind them to contest them. I mean, other than the Cubs.
And finally, the Boston Red Sox are half a game ahead of the Tampa Bay Rays. Another team we did not expect to be in the division lead at this point, but they got a plus 42 run advantage. So are we buying or selling the Boston Red Sox?
I am not buying this team either. The problem with the Red Sox is their pitching rotation is very shaky. And I just got a gut feeling that if they make the postseason, they are going to get swept. The Houston Astros would probably run a train through this team, as would the Chicago White Sox. That the Red Sox pitching cannot be dependent whatsoever, and they're way too boom or bust to be relied upon. Sell now.
I'm selling the Red Sox as well. Looking at the rest of the division in the AL East, everyone is good in that division. Everyone has a legitimate shot at, other than the bottom of the division, but I think the 3 teams behind them all within 10 games. So it's insane right now. So I don't think they'll be able to hold it forever. And I think it's going to be them out of any of these teams that loses the division at some point after the All-Star break.
The Stanley Cup Finals begin tonight. After quite the exciting postseason, we finally got to the last 2. And we've got the lowest seed in the entire postseason in the playoffs, in the Montreal Canadiens. They were the last seed in the North Division and somehow find their way in the Stanley Cup Final. Just an absolutely crazy run from them, which is very LA Kings-esque from 2012. The Kings got in on the final day of the regular season that year, and they went on to win the Stanley Cup. But they've got the Tampa Bay Lightning in front of them. We know the Tampa Bay Lightning are hitting on all cylinders. They won the cup previously, and now are looking to go back-to-back. So, Sean, does Canada return to glory in their dominant sport after 28 long years, or does Tampa Bay go back-to-back?
Look, I understand I've been picking against Montreal this entire postseason. I did say the Jets in 5, which, yeah, it's probably the worst prediction I've ever done. Well, actually, I don't know if that was worse or saying the Nuggets would beat the Suns when they got swept. I don't know which is worse. Check and roast me, whatever you want. But here's the thing. When you look at the Canadiens' 3 opponents to get to the Stanley Cup Final, I just have to point out a couple things. Toronto Maple Leafs were complacent. Also, they lacked that killer instinct, and Montreal was hungry with nothing to lose and took advantage. Now, why did they sweep the Winnipeg Jets? The Winnipeg Jets were sloppy at times. They were inconsistent. They looked really good one minute. The next minute, they looked terrible. They were inconsistent. Also Winnipeg's defense typically struggle because the strength of Winnipeg is on centers and forwards in goaltending, not their defensemen. So Montreal took advantage of that. And why did they beat Vegas? Well, first of all, Marc-Andre Fleury committed an absolutely atrocious error where Tyler Johnson put it away. And Jordan Anderson, And you have a Vegas team that struggled to score. They don't have that true guy that can put the puck away in the net. Did the Tampa Bay Lightning have any of these weaknesses? Oh, no, they don't. The Tampa Bay Lightning are relentless at scoring the puck. Andrei Vasilevsky had a clean sheet in Game 7. 0 goals for the New York Islanders in Game 7. Nikita Kucherov played in Game 7. Tampa Bay Lightning have a great defenseman in Victor Hedman, along with many others. Tampa Bay Lightning have no weaknesses. None. It took a superhuman effort from the New York Islanders to force a Game 7. This is also a team that beat Carolina and Florida, 2 really good teams. The Tampa Bay Lightning have no weaknesses. They don't. They are an empire. They are the dominant team, and they're going to win their second straight Stanley Cup. I get that the Canadiens have gone far, and I get that I picked against them in every series, but I'm sorry. The Tampa Bay Lightning don't have any of the weaknesses that the other teams have. This would be a Giants over the 18-0 Patriots level upset if the Canadiens were to pull this out, because I don't see any way this happens. With Vegas, at least they couldn't score, and Montreal could capitalize on that. What do the Canadiens have over the Lightning? Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Yeah, the only thing I'd say, the goaltenders are pretty much even. I mean, Carey Price. I mean, we have 2 best goaltenders left in the NHL, and they are in the Stanley Cup final. That is bar none. Whoever wins the cup, I think that goaltender will win Conn Smythe. Because I know Victor Hedman won it last year. I don't think he deserved to win it. And I thought Braden Point should have won it, bar none. But I think the goaltenders have really shined for both teams this postseason. I think it's only deserving that either Vasilevsky or Carey Price walk out with that Conn Smythe, because unlike the NBA Finals trophy, the Conn Smythe is for your all-around work in the postseason from the first round to the Cup Finals, unlike where it's just the finals in the NBA. So, Evan, where are you leaning? Can the Canadiens pull off one more upset to hoist that cup and bring glory back to the country of Canada?
I really don't want to root against the Cinderella run and the Canadiens, and because it's their sport, time to reclaim it, right? But no, Tampa Bay is just too good, and it's all lined up for them to win another Stanley Cup. And if I'm a betting man, I'm taking unders this series.
Unlike in years past, especially with a high downforce package, Pocono Raceway has not been the track to deliver entertainment, but boy, was that ever changed this weekend, as the doubleheader in the Cup Series only saw complete madness. Saturday, Kyle Larson looked like he was on his way to a 4th consecutive points race win, and he blew a tire, ran over some debris because he didn't just blow the tire, and hit the wall in the final corner. Alex Bowman went on to get his 3rd straight win. Now let's talk about this for a second, because it seems like Alex Bowman hasn't been the most consistent of drivers, but he's always there when it counts. When it comes to Richmond, was on the front row on the restart at Richmond, got the win there. Dover, on the front row on the restart, got a win there. And here he is at Pocono, running second. A race he was really sitting just a little bit outside the top 10, finds himself out front late. Kyle Larson blows the tire. Bowman's there to take the victory. Bowman's now got 3 wins in the season. You wouldn't expect Bowman to have 3 wins because he has not dominated the races he's won or been a race win contender until the very end. So, Sean, is Alex Bowman even more opportunistic than Joey Logano was when he won his title in 2018?
I would say the comparison here is Brad Keselowski of last year. He stole the Coke 600 win over Chase Elliott. He stole the spring Bristol race when Joey Logano and Chase Elliott took each other out. So basically, it's an equivalent to what happened last season with Brad Keselowski. Yeah, he only has 5 top 5 finishes. 3 of them were wins. So Bowman has not been the consistent force that he was at the start of last year. But hey, when there's a way, if you find a way to win, that's what matters in all sports. And he has found a way to win. And I have to say that was one of the most shocking moments I've ever seen when Kyle Larson blew his tire at the end. I covered that race and I just lost all sense of what was real, what was whatever. Because Kyle Larson in the back, it literally was a perfect replication of the opening scene of Cars.
Hey, Sean, I've got to chime in real quick because apparently we're missing absolute insanity because Croatia has now tied Spain in extra time, and we are now in a 3-3 match. And, I don't have that on my TV right now, but we probably should. But we've got madness in Euro, ladies and gentlemen. But back to NASCAR. Evan, what were your thoughts on Saturday's race before we talk about what happened yesterday?
I mean, I wasn't able to quite catch the race Saturday, but for Alex Bowman, another Hendrick driver to capitalize and get the win, it's absolute insanity. And I feel for Kyle Larson blowing out his tire because, I mean, that was all lined up for him to win. We had been talking about it since Friday, so it's a little bit of a disappointment, but good to see someone else from Hendrick win.
Now, finally, Sunday, after 6 races, we've now got a new winner in the Cup Series, a non-Hendrick winner, as Kyle Busch came through, out-strategized, really out-fueled everyone at the end and was able to collect his second victory of the season. Now, granted, many people are going to say it was because he was stuck in fourth gear for the last 100 laps, so he was able to coast in the corners and, save fuel from there because he didn't have to downshift or upshift at any point in the last 100 laps. But still, that's a lot of adversity to overcome, and to be able to set yourself up for victory. That's just the Kyle Busch way, and why I think he's been the best driver in NASCAR over the last decade. Now, Kyle Larson obviously is coming up next behind him, but Kyle Busch has been the man. He's got 220 career NASCAR wins across all 3 series, which is just pure insanity. But Sean, I don't know if you tuned in for the last couple of laps, but that was some great racing we saw on Sunday, especially when it comes down to fuel mileage. That's, even with stages, you still have fuel mileage races. And I think Pocono is quite underrated. I think people hate on it a little bit too much.
Kyle Busch is another one of those drivers that just finds a way to win. How did he win the 2019 Cup Series championship? By not making mistakes. Kyle Busch is a driver that does not make mistakes. He may not be as fast or as talented as other drivers, but he doesn't make mistakes. He's very technical, very precise. Kind of like the New England Patriots with Bill Belichick when Tom Brady was there. They don't make mistakes. They force the other team to beat them. They don't beat themselves. That kind of excellence is rare in sports, because quite often a lot of the biggest sports moments we've ever seen are sometimes other teams making mistakes and other teams capitalizing on them, or just pure luck. But if you're technically precise, if you basically perfect your craft, you have a flawless pit crew, you don't get speeding penalties, and you win your restarts, you're going to be very hard to beat, and you're going to be very consistent. No matter how bad Kyle Busch has struggled, he's still a top 10 driver every race. Kyle Busch does not make mistakes. He has perfectly honed his craft in NASCAR. He may not be the most talented, but he is the most well-rounded. He is the most technical. He is the most accurate driver, however you can interpret that. And because of that, Kyle Busch was able to win a fuel mileage race because he made the right call with pit strategy. Kyle Busch does not beat himself. Other drivers have to beat him. And when other drivers make mistakes, Kyle Busch will be there to capitalize, just like he did in the Busch Clash to start the season.
Yeah, that was crazy. That final stretch lasted like 15 minutes of the race where the leader was going, but then they ran out of fuel, and so they had to pit. And then towards the end, I believe it was like on the last 2 laps, Kyle Busch was just able to get around whoever was leading at the time. I don't quite remember, on the outside, and just take the win. And it was just one of the craziest finishes to a races I've seen. And just knowing that he's the guy that managed to time his last pit perfectly to be able to finish out the race in first. I mean, racers were dropping like flies out there heading to pit row. And so for Kyle Busch to do it, I always like watching the M&M car run. It's exciting. I like the paint scheme. I like M&Ms. It's hard not to root for. So to see him win, it feels good. Feels good.
Yeah, and also, guys that set themselves up for success. Kyle Larson made some pretty severe contact with Denny Hamlin in the first stage and was running, in 20th and wasn't really gaining anything. But somehow, some way, the best drivers find a way to set themselves up for success. And that's what Kyle Larson did on Sunday. And he was able to get that second place finish. I mean, the man either finishes one or two every weekend when he's not blowing a tire on the final turn. So, I mean, we're setting ourselves up for quite the interesting semifinals because Kyle Larson's only 4 points back of Denny Hamlin for the points lead. And, many people kind of ignore the regular point standings, but there's 15 playoff points up for grabs. It could determine whether you can just kind of cruise your way and score good finishes to get to the next round, or you might be in a position where you have to win. If Denny Hamlin fails to win in the next 7 races and loses out on those 15 playoff points, he could very well be in a must-win situation come the first round of the playoffs. So, I mean, the semifinals could be very interesting because Martin Truex Jr., while he hasn't looked great, is going to be a player if he's in that final 8, with Martinsville being that last race in the semifinals. You got all of Hendrick. It seems to be Hendrick Motorsports versus Kyle Busch and Martin Truex Jr. I think Brad's in the wings there. Obviously, Joey Logano could steal a win here or there, but Sean, do you believe that's where we're headed? I mean, just what do you think of where we could be heading in the playoffs versus where we were last year?
I've said this before on the stream. It wouldn't surprise me if all 4 Hendrick cars make it to the championship 4. It would not surprise me. William Byron, outside of Kyle Larson, has probably been the single most consistent driver in all of NASCAR. And I feel like William Byron could pull off what Kyle Busch in 2019, where he relies on top 5 finishes to get to the championship 4. William Byron's not a waste sprinter, but he's a top 5, top 10 every single race. Chase Elliott, you can't count him out, and he's probably going to win the Charlotte Road Bull easily. Because you can't ever discount Chase Elliott on road courses. Oh, wait, there's a road course this upcoming weekend. So you can never count out Chase Elliott. Also, didn't Chase Elliott win at Martinsville last year? Oh, yeah, he did. Okay. And Chase Elliott was much better the second half of the season than he was the first half of the season. So you can't count out Chase Elliott. Alex Bowman, we just saw he can steal some wins. I think Brett Keselowski got into the championship 4 last year as well. He just stole wins throughout the season, just like Alex Bowman has. But I think that the championship 4, will include Kyle Busch, because Kyle Busch has won 2 races this season. And Kyle Busch did win at Texas last season, even though he wasn't one of the final 8. I think Kyle Busch will find his way to championship 4, but it's going to be Kyle Busch versus 3 Hendrick drivers. Because I'm sorry, Chase Elliott is too good not to be in the championship 4, in my opinion. He will get it done. Obviously, Kyle Larson and William Byron will be there, but then I think Kyle Busch will take the championship 4 spot. Martin Truex Jr. did not win Martinsville, the last Martinsville race last year. I don't think he will this year, and I can see Kyle Busch be winning Martinsville. But I think Kyle Busch also, what's the race before Texas in the round of 8? Kansas. Who won Kansas? Oh, wait a minute. That was also Kyle Busch. Yeah, I think Kyle Busch is going to be the championship 4, and it's possible that the championship race in Phoenix can come down to Kyle Busch versus Kyle Larson, which sign me up. The past and the present of NASCAR versus the future, which is Kyle Larson.
Going back to what you were saying, Cameron, about winning the regular season and getting those 15 playoff points, it kind of surfaces like a bye for an NFL team when they have the best record in their conference in the regular season. It's a little bit different because as a driver, you still have to race and whatnot, and you don't get like the week off or whatever. But at the same time, it does sufficient you that those necessary points, which makes it a lot easier to get to the next round. So, I mean, it's huge, and it's going to be awesome to watch this point race come down towards the end of the season here.
Now, on the opposite end of the spectrum in quality racing, the Styrian Grand Prix was not as many expected, as rain was being threatened but never came. It was actually bright and sunny at the start of the Styrian Grand Prix, but Max Verstappen went on his way to just obliterate the field. It wasn't even close. We're talking 35 plus seconds ahead of a second place Lewis Hamilton. But hey, you know, I guess we care when Verstappen wins by 35 seconds, but when Lewis does, it's only Mercedes. Mercedes is the dominant car. It's just the car. It's not the town of Lewis Hamilton. But when it's Verstappen winning by 35 seconds, it's Super Max, and Max is the greatest driver on the planet. Quite ironic. But Sean, you had full coverage for this race, but even you said you fell asleep. But what happened, man? And are we all in pain after what happened to George Russell losing out on points again for Williams?
What did I say in my preview? George Russell was the driver to watch. I regret writing that because George Russell, he was running P8. He was running P8. And mechanical failures led him to having to retire from the race. Oh, it was painful. George Russell, I literally wrote this in the Styrian Grand Prix recap. George Russell was already making his case as the unluckiest driver in the history of Formula One. And that's saying a lot because, well, Daniel Ricciardo exists, Sebastian Vettel exists, Felipe Massa exists. Yeah, no, George Russell has been extraordinarily unlucky. Can we please just get him in that Mercedes seat, please? Just pretty please. I know Mercedes is focusing on 2022. Can we please get George Russell in there? Just pretty please. I'm tired of saying this. I'm tired of saying George Russell just crash and burn out of every points opportunity he gets Williams. He still hasn't finished with points.
Hey, but Valtteri landed on the podium this week.
Yawn, boo, hiss. Okay, Austria is a track that Mercedes dominates at. Of course he's going to get on the podium. Okay, he's lucky that the race wasn't 72 laps, or else Sergio would have passed him again, just like he did at France for P3.
I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but Lando's still the only driver to point in every single race, correct?
That is correct, because Lewis did not get points in Baku. Neither did Verstappen, because both of them finished outside the top 10. So yeah, Lando has been very consistent this season. He got P5, which basically seems to be what Lando's going to get almost every single race, because he is the fifth best. He is the best driver outside the two Red Bulls and two Mercedes. But here's your point about Verstappen versus Hamilton. How many drivers' championships has Hamilton won? 7. How many has Verstappen won? 0. So that is why that F1 fans are much happier when Verstappen wins by 35 seconds, because he hasn't won a championship. Hamilton has won it 7 times. Okay, we've had a whole generation of Lewis Hamilton winning the championship. We have not seen Verstappen win a championship. So yes, it is much more exciting because he hasn't won yet. Okay, so let's just chill with the anti-Mercedes propaganda here. Okay, Cameron, let's just chill. Okay, if Verstappen wins a championship and then maybe wins another one, then we'll start to hate the 35 seconds. Okay, then we'll start to hate it. But for now, let's just enjoy that a new driver is about to win the championship, just like I predicted before the season.
Evan, you got anything?
I mean, I'm always down for an underdog, and if he's blowing out people by 35 seconds, do you get your championship?
Now, we were just talking about Euro, as Croatia and Spain are in extra time to decide that round of 16 match for a spot in the quarterfinals. But we had some shocking results yesterday, as the Netherlands, a team that looked to be one of the best in the group stage, bowed out to the Czech Republic after a red card set off and put Netherlands down a man. Czech Republic went on to win 2-0. So, Sean, what's the fallout of the Dutch being out? Is this going to hurt them down the stretch when they get into World Cup qualifying and into the winter next year when we get into World Cup play? Or is this just one little fluke bump in the road for them?
First of all, yes, Croatia, Spain, first time I've had the game on, which is why I've probably reacted on the stream a couple times. Yes, it is an extra time. Croatia has already had 2 golden chances to score in extra time, which this would be insane if Croatia were to win. But obviously, we'll talk more about that if someone scores. But going to the Netherlands, coming into Euro 2020, there was one criticism of the Dutch, and that was Frankie de Boer is not the manager to get done for the Dutch. The Dutch blew a 2-0 lead to Ukraine. They did end up winning that match, but they did blow a 2-0 lead pretty quickly to Ukraine. Look, Ukraine is good. They made it to the round of 16. Probably gonna get destroyed by Sweden, but hey, Ukraine is solid. But they blew a 2-0 lead. That's not good. And do you want to know how many shots on target the Netherlands had yesterday? 0. 0. That is not good. The Netherlands lacked creativity. They lacked just a sense of urgency. Jorginho Wijnaldum, I need to start forming a missing poster for Jorginho Wijnaldum. Where was he in yesterday's match? I can't even tell you. Memphis Depay, why were you trying to act like a midfielder instead of an attacker? Well, he made some of the worst passes I've ever seen in a striker. Also, nice first touch there, bro. You're going to fit right in at Barcelona after Martin Braithwaite's performance last year. Okay, you're going to fit right in at Barcelona. Oh, yeah, also old Sergio Aguero right next to you. Okay, so have fun, Barcelona. The Netherlands is in a new era. They don't have Arjen Robben, Wesley Sneijder, Robin van Persie, a trio that basically carried the Netherlands to a lot of success in the early 2010s. They were one of the most fun teams to watch. They were a penalty shootout away from beating Spain in a World Cup final, okay? But this is a new era of the Dutch. Frankie de Boer, needs to go. His tactics were uninspiring against a Czech Republic team that knew they were the underdogs and had nothing to lose. He was outcoached, plain and simple. They need to get a new manager, but also let's not roast them too much because they still didn't have their best player, Virgil van Dijk. Virgil van Dijk is in this series. It would have probably gone to a penalty shootout 0-0. Because you can bet Virgil van Dijk would have not conceded a goal. And you bet that Matthijs de Ligt would not have been in that lineup and he would not have gotten that red card. Okay, so I think that the Netherlands will be fun as long as they get a new manager and Virgil van Dijk comes back. With those two things happening before 2022 World Cup, the Netherlands should be fine to make a deep run in that tournament.
Playing down a player is always tough. So, I mean, I think going forward to the not the World Cup, but the Olympics and whatnot, I think and the World Cup in the next couple of years, but Netherlands have a real opportunity to bounce back. Losing a game in a tournament style after being down players, it's an unfortunate situation. It'll be good to see how they bounce back following Euro 2020.
We have a new Hazard King, as Thorgan was the one to get the job done for Belgium's side against Portugal. Now, Portugal didn't do it without a fight because they put up 23 shots and had a lot of good chances in the second half, but still, the result stayed the same. Belgium gets the dub over Portugal, which is probably one of the more satisfying wins we've had in Euro because I'm on the big Belgium side. Sean's a big Belgium guy, and to see Portugal and Cristiano Ronaldo bow out, especially Bruno Fernandes, who was on the wrong side of Manchester, take that L. You just love to see it. Sean, what do you got?
Alvaro Morata just scored an absolute banger of a volley. Spain has taken a 4-3 lead in stoppage time. Alvaro Morata with a sensational goal, which is something I never thought I'd say ever again.
And they say there are no goals in soccer.
Yeah. What a finish. Yes. Spain is up 4-3. 10 minutes into stoppage time. There's still 20 minutes to go. So Croatia still has time, but yes, Spain is up 4-3.
Your thoughts on Belgium's win over Portugal?
Yes, Belgium's win. Sorry, this is one of the most insane matches I've ever seen. Anyways, yes, Belgium got it done. And yes, I'm on the Belgian train. I've been a fan of them ever since I've gone into soccer. I just always thought they were the most fun team to watch. And yes, I do have my very own Belgium kit. Unfortunately, it's in my laundry pile. But Belgium got it done. Why? Because they took advantage of the chances they got. Thorgan Hazard, an amazing shot. It was a Dortmund goal. Thomas Meunier set up Thorgan Hazard. Both Dortmund teammates scored the goal, an amazing shot from Thorgan Hazard. Belgium took advantage of the chances that they got and they converted them. They had the pace, they had the playmaking. Belgium is a team that doesn't usually control possession in a tough match like they did against Portugal. Belgium usually is on the counterattack, but Portugal just did not have the chances. Ronaldo didn't really get a great chance throughout the match. Bruno Fernandes, Diogo Jota, what were these two doing? There was one play early in the first half where Diogo Jota was set up perfectly on a counterattack and he just missed it so wide. Portugal just didn't know how to shoot around the net. And when that happens, you're not gonna keep up with Belgium. Belgium is way too talented to be squandering your chances against. Look at Brazil in the quarterfinals of 2018. Belgium scored 2 goals early, and then Brazil completely dominated possession in the second half. I remember me and Cameron were both absolutely nauseous on the edge of our seats the entire second half when Belgium
not enjoy a New York vacation watching that match.
This is also true. But I was just sitting on my couch and I was in complete fear the whole second half. Why? Because Brazil dominated possession, but they couldn't take advantage of their chances, so Belgium held on to win. And Belgium took advantage. But unfortunately, just like in 2018, Belgium is going to have the roughest path because Belgium now gets to play Italy, while the Czech Republic gets to play Denmark. Really? We're doing this again? Where one side of the bracket is much better than the other? We're doing this again? And Spain just scored again and is now
but at least England has nowhere to hide and not getting a James Rodriguez-less Colombia squad that they have to go to penalties against.
This is true. But yes, Czech Republic has played Denmark, and with Spain's goal, they're up 5-3. Unless Croatia scores 2 goals in the second half of stoppage time, they are out. Insane match. But yes, Euro has been fantastic, and I wonder if Switzerland can pull off the upset in an hour. They take on France. Not likely, but France hasn't exactly looked like the best so far. So great stuff happening at Euro 2020. This competition has already satisfied all my desires. So I'm very happy.
All I got to say is congrats to Belgium on the win, but your run is over. Italy's about to put up 4 goals on them and just end it.
What? Literally Italy needed extra time to defeat Austria. But okay, if you're right, I'll give it to you.
That's a bold take.
That's a very bold take.
But we will say more bold takes for Wednesday. Thank you all for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe to our podcast version on Spotify and Apple. Make sure to check out all of our written content on richport.com, as we will have a Stanley Cup final preview up later today before game 1 tonight. For Sean Clark and Evan McNelia, I am Cameron Richardson, and we will see you on Wednesday for another edition of the Rich Report live stream. See y'all then. Have a great rest of your day.